What is up, y'all? Welcome. Come in, sit down, get yourself something to drink. Smoke if you got them. We are here for our weekly energy oracle forecast, where we will just be taking a look at the week ahead and seeing what kind of energy we will be living and moving and having our being in. So let's see what we've got. Last night, I thank you for excusing my absence. I did not record a Secret Teachings of Jesus episode last night because I was up late recording for the 2026 prediction series. Yay! I was working on that after work and it was really late. It was like well after 1 by the time I finished the prediction series video. And I still hadn't eaten, and I knew I still needed to take a shower and eat dinner before I went to bed. So I just decided to forego the video last night to keep pressing forward for our prediction series, which I'm really excited about. So far, I've recorded up until March. So tonight, I even took a cut from work to be able to stay home and make some progress in filming. And they've been really in depth, and I've basically only been able to record like 2 in a row so far because they're really in depth, and I'm just burnt to a crisp after. So I've gotten up to March finished, and I have to say they're very detailed about what it is that will be sort of like, it's like getting the plays ahead of the game. Or knowing that you're about to go into an obstacle course or a course that's like maybe booby-trapped that you have to like figure your way out through, but you kind of get notes on what to expect ahead of time. So the readings are really great for letting us know like what the themes of the lessons are going to be for the month, what challenges, like how the challenges might present, and things that are key in navigating those challenges. And then also like the spiritual issue, the underlying issue that it's really tied to. So there's so much clarity and direction coming through that we can really utilize to not only navigate the year in a more proactive and fulfilling way, but to really get the most out of it and to become the greatest like version of ourselves, right? To see, our limitations and our darkness and the way that we're fumbling through and embracing that and refining it and working with it. And so I'm excited. I think that there's already real potential for great things in the year ahead. I think we're having a really different year than this past year. I think 2026 is going to have a different energy, but I think it's going to require that we're nimble and quick. So I am already so grateful to have this in my back pocket as a tool to refer back to through the year, and so will you for a minimal price. So I think it's this past year I priced the series at $10. I think I might raise the price this year to $12 so that it is $1 per month. It's going to be probably about 16 hours of content with journal exercises, and so that you can workshop through the lessons that are coming up. But I think that I want to keep it very affordable for everyone. I know that in some situations that might not even be accessible. So I don't know like how to handle that, because I feel like if you make the price too low, people don't take it seriously, they don't value it, and they kind of pass it off and shrug it off. But if you make something, if you give someone an exchange to give you for the thing, like they value it more when they have to put something in. So I don't know. If anybody is in any situations or parts of the world where they're in extreme desperation, let me know, and maybe I can figure out a way to like get this to you. But otherwise, like I feel like $10-12 is a great value, very fair for everyone. So if I had quite a lot of traffic to the link last year, but I think that people were confused about the fact that my store page doesn't have it doesn't have menus or drop down options. It was just like one or two things, and there's a buy now button. So I think that threw people off. At first I only had PayPal as a payment option, but now I have Stripe, so you can use credit cards or debit cards. Yeah, so hopefully those details are ironed out and everything's all in place this year, and I will finish this thing as fast as I can and get that uploaded for you guys. But yeah, I believe in it so much that I have now sacrificed 2 shifts of work to stay home and work on this for you guys. So I believe in it. I'm investing in it. I'm putting skin in the game here. All right, let's see what we've got. Growth. I love this. This is definitely on the table for this week. We are moving into Sagittarius season, and that is influenced by Jupiter. And Jupiter is all about expansion, but Jupiter can only expand what we give it. So the amount of effort that we put into our personal transformation, that is going to proportionately yield the amount of growth we experience as a result. It's like, how big of a turkey do you want for Thanksgiving? Well, you're going to have to feed your turkey through the year. You have to nurture the turkey to grow the turkey, right? If you put a lot into the turkey, you're going to have a big feast. But if you neglect the turkey, you're going to have slim pickings, right? So 2 is our devotion to our process in life. And every day we are literally living in a simulation that is organically responding to what we need to go through a new experience, to show ourselves what we're lacking or our darkness or what we need to correct or tweak or elevate. And then we are given opportunities to then change our perception, change our consciousness, and then take different actions, right? So as we overcome our lower nature or break patterns or break negative habits, then we reveal more energy that yields more growth and more fulfillment and progress, right? And so so this week, actually, the weekly energy oracle forecast here always ends up aligning with the weekly portion of the Torah that we look at through the Zohar, daily Zohar lessons that I do. And it's so funny because it usually lines up with whatever the Secret Teachings of Jesus video was the night before. And I never know what it is ahead of time. I never plan it. It's just like synchronistic. So, it's the spirit speaking to us about what's relevant this week. And so this is why it's genuinely coming from spirit. So the portion of the week this week is about how Jacob was the son of one of the sons of Abraham, and Jacob had to go through, Jacob was the son of Isaac, who was the grandson of Abraham, I think. Either way, point is that Jacob had to go through 7 years of total shit in order to actually reveal his ultimate destiny and blessing. And so he had to, and it says that Joseph's 7 years of this labor where he had to be like an indentured servant to, like, he wanted to marry, I think Rachel, was it? And her father was like, okay, you can marry her, but you have to work for me for 7 years. And he was an indentured servant to this guy for 7 years in order to marry his daughter. And this guy was evil and he was bad. And so he was stuck with this guy. But it says that Jacob, for this 7 years, went by like 7 days for Jacob. And so the secret here is, how do we shorten our process? Right? The 7 years of trials and tribulations that Jacob went through represent the trials and tribulations that we go through in our own life when we're represented like challenges that we have to navigate through in order to awaken our soul and elevate our consciousness and grow. So, and this usually comes through, like we said, trials, tribulations. It's not always like sunshine and rainbows and angel numbers for your lessons, right? This is like the big ha-ha inside joke of spirituality. It's like, oh, you think it's going to be fun, magical, and it is in many ways, and it can be also brutal and unrelenting in many ways. So So anyway, Jacob's 7 years and as an indentured servant to this severe master in order to get his bride, right? He had to endure this time. And so how did he make it seem shorter? How did he get through it with resilience? He embraced the process. He tried to make the most of it. He tried to enjoy the situation. He tried to utilize that situation to grow from and to be strengthened by and fortified by. So, and this translates to our personal experience as when we are going through changes in life and trials and tribulations and times of difficulty and uncertainty. This is likely a process that the universe has organically constructed for us to take us through the process that we need to go through in order to finally see the light of a situation, to see the bigger picture, to see the deeper meaning, to break the pattern, to disrupt the ongoing cycle, right? To break the cycle, right? In order to liberate ourselves from unconscious cycles, unconscious defense mechanisms, unconscious self-sabotaging patterns, we have to become aware of them and then break them. So in order to become aware of them, we're usually taken through a process. And so sometimes the process goes for forever, right? When we don't learn our lesson, it keeps repeating. When we get rid of one bad toxic ex, it's like, oh, suddenly another sparkly option comes along. And if we're not conscious, it's very likely that we will fall right back into the same relationship because we didn't learn our lessons and we're not learning and embodying that wisdom and taking in, oh, this is the same person again, or it's going to turn into the same person because I'm being the same person. I'm doing the same things. I'm creating the same circumstances for the same patterns to play out again. Does that make sense? So the more that we embrace the process, embrace that difficult situation and milk it for all it's worth in like studying yourself, asking why am I doing this? Can I disrupt this? Where is this coming from? Like figuring out a way to just make a shift, a change. For some people, they can just see the pattern and then break themselves free of it and be like, oh, I don't want to be reflexive or on autopilot. Now that I'm aware of it, I can make that change. And maybe it's easier in some areas of our life than others. And sometimes it takes us years and years. We keep falling for the same old charming narcissist that keeps coming back, and all they really want is attention. And we think that they have somehow changed or evolved and they want something real, and it's never the case. You know what I mean? Like this trope that we're all familiar with because we've all either been through it and or have a friend who's been through it more than once. You know, so we're all very familiar with this plot, right? With the storyline. So this week we are strengthened and invigorated to embrace this process with fire and passion. That way we can get the most out of it and get through it quickly rather than resisting it, squirming, fighting, avoiding, doing all the things, but actually just doing the work, just bemoaning, complaining, lamenting, ruminating, maladaptive imagining, like just be in it and see yourself in it to the point where you're like, oh, I can never deal with myself going through this again and putting up with that kind of thing or going through this pattern again. I've had enough. I rebuke this pattern. I can't stomach it again, ever again. You've had enough. You're done with it. We're growing. But in order to quicken the process, what are we going to do? Embrace it. Lean in. Fire. Whatever we do, the works that we do, we need to do them with intensity, with intention, with enthusiasm, with optimism, with fervor and vigor and life force. That really gives it its gusto, its magic, its power, right? Without that fire, without that intensity, without that passion, without that intention and focus, it's like we go through the motions. It doesn't really generate that much miracle juice. All right. So embracing the process speeds it up, helps us embody the wisdom faster and more thoroughly. And then we can move out of that lesson and into new, broader horizons, brighter days. All right. So humanity is on the plate this week. And so part of our evolution as spiritual students and seekers is to eventually realize that the spiritual process is not just to heal ourselves and to make our own lives more peaceful and fulfilling and to unbreak our hearts so we can be at peace and be, unbothered by any pain anymore. But the purpose of it truly is to ultimately, you kind of start off in the spiritual pursuit in order to soothe some pain for yourself, to stop your suffering. But after a while, when the spiritual work starts doing its thing, you start to realize that you're studying and you're changing, you're transforming, not just for yourself, but for the sake of the world, for the sake of other people too, for the sake of humanity. You're wanting to heal so that you can help others heal. When you learn and you receive light and wisdom and understanding, it's like your instinct is to want to share that light and that wisdom and that understanding with others so that they can receive the benefits of it as well. And I think that part of the key to healing humanity and bringing humanity into unity is to bear witness to the collective human nightmare that is going on Earth right now. We have to bear witness to this. We can't look away. And I think we're so afraid to look into it and get connected and involved. And we need to, right? I think we've all been in this situation this year where we're seeing these graphic videos and images of the conflicts going on and the violence and the genocide going on in the various countries around the world, whether it be in Gaza or Sudan or Congo. The images and the people and the suffering is so immense, and people need our help, and we can help them directly. We can. It takes a little bit of trust, right? That you are connecting with a real person who is who they say they are, and that you can directly donate to them. And I think that most of our fears, though, is that it'll unlock a floodgate. I know that different people have different personalities, right? And just because you're in the midst of a genocide in a desperate situation, it doesn't mean that you're automatically great at dealing with the situation, or that you're an effective communicator, or that you understand marketing or human psychology, right? People are just in desperate situations, and so they're asking for help in various ways. And it can feel overwhelming and intimidating for someone in absolute desperation, fighting for their life, suddenly reaching out to you, and you're genuinely just busy getting through your day. And you might be in line at the store, and you accept their friend request, and you're intending to get back to it later, but they keep messaging you. Some people aren't like that. Some people are more passive, and they kind of trust that you'll do your thing if you follow their content enough, and you will reach out to them, right? People are different about it, but I think the key is to just give yourself the grace to let your instincts tell you who in the world needs help, who's standing out to you, who's pulling at you to connect with on a personal level. And then set boundaries for yourself to keep the situation at the pace that you can maintain it, right? So for instance, like sometimes people are reaching out to me and I'm already like fully extended, trying to give support to some people consistently that kind of depend on that as me as a consistent donor. And so if I get more, there are more people I would like to help, right? And I want to share their content as much as it can be effective when I do it, right? To not overdo it, not underdo it, to just hit the sweet spot. And you know, you can only help so many people, right? And so you've got to be both compassionate, but also pace yourself, because there's a creator that I follow. His name's Andrew, and his handle is the Virgin X. And he has this, amazing icon like Mary that he does, like a Catholic sort of like drag representation. And he has been sharing a lot of people's stories and their accounts and things, but then he's gotten a lot of traffic for people, but he's hit this like wall of burnout and overwhelm and total depression, because he's so hyper aware now that everything that around him that he consumes, that he does to just get by in his day to day, it feels so frivolous in comparison to the people who are reaching out in need and who want him to help them somehow. And it's overwhelming because he can't help everyone. And it's overwhelming because he sees all the evil in the world and how everything is corrupt and how everything that we consume and need and use just contributes to the destruction of the planet and the destruction of people and the suffering of others. And so he's really deeply struggling with that right now. And so I think that it's like this thing that we're having to figure out how to navigate, how to be able to hold space and bear witness and be with people in this suffering, and not be crippled by it, not be completely broken and undone, right? And so I've been thinking about it a lot, and thinking about how this summer I was in such grief and such devastation for people going through these struggles, that I was almost like, not incapacitated, but I was rendered like I wasn't getting anything, like I wasn't, almost dysfunctional in my life. Like it was almost as if I was in total depression. Like I was just so like enthralled and connected with it that like the day would go by and I just wasn't like tending to my affairs. Like I couldn't get grounded, and I was like letting things slip and letting the day just burn away. And and because of that devastation, I was spending a lot of hours just weeping and crying and witnessing all of this. And so I'm just like been asking God and kind of praying about it. Like what's the balance? Because also in my Kabbalah classes last week, we were talking about how the Shekhinah, the spirit of God, the female form expression of the creator, can't draw near to a person if they are in deep grieving and suffering for too long, because they don't bear affinity with that spirit any longer. So it doesn't seem fair, right, that a person who needs that spiritual presence more than ever wouldn't be able to access it, right? But it's the spiritual laws. It's the law of vibration, right? If there's something doesn't have affinity and doesn't bear vibrational resonance, it can't draw together. So the spirit has to, there has to be some level of grief and allowing the grief to process and run its course, because you can't hold it in either, because then it doesn't get digested, it doesn't get moved. So I think that we have to be able to open ourselves up as a vessel to bear witness to it, and let our heart be broken open to the point of allowing us to rid ourselves of the selfishness and self-importance, the self-emptying, as it were, called in when certain mystics from the past talk about it, this process of ascension. There's first a process of self-emptying. and like getting rid of the ego, getting rid of the agenda for the self, right? So we take it in and we see that have that vision of sorrow, that grief, enough to let it open our hearts, to change us, to make us, to awaken in us a fire to want to be the change we wish to see, a fire and a desire to be more motivated, to be giving and sharing and show up and take positive action and put more light in the world and do more and be more and be a greater vessel of sharing. But we can't hold on to that grief to the point where it starts to take over and drag us down into pits of despair and feelings of futility and resolve, because that's kind of like the content he's been posting recently is just feelings of despair, like what's the point? And I tried to send him a message to encourage him, but you know, like, I mean, who am I, right? I don't know if he'll see it or not. If he's meant to, he will. But that's what the female opponent, the feminine Satan, wants. The male Satan puts the initial trap out and tricks you with the temptation to fall into like a bad reactive behavior or consciousness. The feminine Satan comes in and wants to make you feel despair and shame and make you give up and give you that emotional loss, because that is a heavier win. It's a heavier loss for us, but it's a heavier win for them, for the opponent side. So again, we need to experience that sorrow enough to where it galvanizes us to make the change and the transformation, and to have that fire to want to do good works and to generate unity and justice for all, right? And liberty and sustenance and prosperity and spiritual well-being for everyone. Emotional security, you know, not just physical needs met, but to bring everyone along with us. Everyone is included. No one is left behind, right? And so, but we cannot continue to feel so sad and so grieved that we are powerless to act, because then we're not effective vessels for the change. Right. So we need to feel it as much as we need to get that fire under our ass to make a difference. And then beyond that, we need to compartmentalize that grief so that we can still function and we can still be a powerful vessel. Right. Because if we get dragged down into despair and we get focused on the sadness and not the proactive solution orientedness, then that's exactly the dark side's plan. That's the dark side winning, right? So if we collectively share this nightmare that humanity is living through right now, we bear witness, we share the grief, we share the toil, we share the joy, we share our resources with one another, then that's going to create change. And we have to do it not for the sake of ourselves, but for the sake of sharing, right? I want to be more for the sake of sharing, right? I want to receive for the sake of sharing. I feel bad right now because I accepted a request by someone and they've been trying to reach out to me in a message and they need help, obviously. And I want to help them. They don't need to convince me. I just, like, I don't have the means to spread out the amount of help that I would like to give to everyone. And so I'm in this moment right now where I'm like, how do I do this? I need a moment to be able to consciously answer this message in a way that is compassionate and understanding of this person, and communicates to them like, hey, I have a heart to help you. I won't forget you. I have to wait till the funds are there, you know? And I think that there's a fear in us that the person won't let it go, right? And I mean, what's the worst that would happen in that case, right? You just respectfully communicate that you need them to respect your boundaries, or you put them in the not primary box and you go look at it when you're ready to read it, or you put the notifications on silenced or whatever you have to do. But we can figure out sustainable ways to approach this in, I don't know how to put it, like to approach it in a sustainable way, or to make it, because I think if people are if people are too intimidated or they're too scared to get involved, then they're not getting involved at all. But I think if we give ourselves room and grace to get involved, even if we're not doing it right, even if we're doing it a little messy, even if we're not doing it perfectly, but getting, our feet wet and helping people and being proactive and not being afraid to look to face the world's problems and to try to make an effort to alleviate them, right? We don't have to take on all the suffering in the world. That's what Jesus was for, right? We're here though to be beacons and vessels where we can. So a little bit is better than not doing anything at all. And I think as we do little by little by little, we start to get our bearings about how it works and how we do it and how we approach it and how we navigate the situation with the most grace and the most effectiveness, right? I think that if you're willing and open to help, the world will sense that, and the universe will send you your special assigned people to help. Right? And you'll connect with them when they present themselves to you. I at first was trying to give small donations to as many people as possible, but what I've found is that I found someone that didn't have as big of an account. They weren't getting as many donations. She didn't seem like super great at being a content creator, or maybe it's just that maybe her focus was on TikTok and not Instagram. I don't know. But I chose one of the smaller people, and or not smaller person, but a smaller account. She has a husband and a baby, a toddler who needs things and who's had hard times with her health because of exposure to the elements and to being displaced. And so, I thought, okay, well, if I can show up for them every week, then that is a consistent difference that someone feels it's palpable, right? Rather than a random small gift here and there that comes randomly, but having like a little bit of consistent support, I think goes a long way. And it makes a palpable difference for people when you can do that. So one person really can make a difference. And it can be intimidating. You may not know where to start, but just giving your weekly tithes to people in need and being consistent about it can make a huge difference. Right? And if you can split it up between a couple of people, maybe do that or what have you, but you will be led to your vessel that needs you, right? And you need them as much as they need you, right? I have needed to have connections with these people in my life who have given me things that they don't even realize, right? Because there is giving in the receiving, and there is receiving in the giving as well. So when you give, that helps you overcome and correct for your darkness and pay off your spiritual debt. And it helps you reveal more blessings for not only others, but for yourself too. But it's just better to not go in it thinking, okay, I'm going to put this amount of charity in and it should yield me this kind of return. It's not about ROI. It's about giving with no expectation of return, but trust that the Creator has your back and you'll be taken care of if your heart is coming from pure intentions. All right, you all, that is all for tonight. We will be back together tomorrow for our weekly anchor message. I'm going to continue working on the 2026 prediction series. I'm going to keep teasing y'all about it, and I'll let you know the second that it is up for available to purchase. All right, y'all. Peace.